Hey everybody, it's the Doctor here with Typical Manga Fan, and this episode of the Typical Manga Review will be dedicated to Bleach, Chapter 665, The Princess's Dissection. And we pretty much pick up where we left off last week. Urahara is like, well, guess you're serious about actually trying to kill me. Well, nothing for it. Bankai.
Anyway, is it Princess Dissection or Princess Dissection?
I said prince. I meant princess either way.
Okay. Because the Princess Dissection, I'm thinking that it's so the princess is probably gonna do it. Then that's what it's referring to.
Well, yeah, it says princess on the title.
Yeah. I thought you said princesses, so it's a little different.
Well, okay. In that case, yeah, I might have misspoken.
Alright. So yeah. Wow, I forgot his name. Askin. There you go. Askin is like, whoa, what the hell? It's a gigantic woman.
Yep.
I mean, when I say gigantic, I mean, holy crap, she's huge. Actually,
Yeah.
Did you notice that her right arm is like a doll?
I am noticing that now that you say it. Like it's almost like a little puppet.
Well, if you think about it, it makes sense because it's sort of like he's like, sort of like a, well, I mean, I'll talk about that later, but yeah. So,
And just for reference, like I said, the name of the name of Urahara's Bankai is Kenon Biraki Benihime Aratame, and on the Viz version a couple of weeks ago when it was first revealed, they translated the name as Opened Red Princess Neo, which is probably easier than the whole big long thing they'd probably gotten the translator note in the corner here on Manga Stream.
so, Oscar said something really stupid where he says, "Did you say Bankai? That's not right. There wasn't anything in your Bankai in the intel his Majesty gave me." And then Urahara says that's because this is the first time he's ever used it in front of people, or in front of the Quincy's.
Yeah.
But this is my question. My question is like, wait. So I get that you don't know what it is, but how would you not know that he had one? Because again,
Yeah.
everyone has one except for Kenpachi. Like that, I think like the way it's phrased is like saying I'm surprised that he actually has one, rather than actually finding out what it is. So I'm a little confused as to why that's even. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. What is it? He shouldn't be confused by this.
Yeah. Then on the other hand, Yoruichi didn't throw one out, so you never know. Maybe there's some expectation he didn't have one handy for some reason.
Well, that's not right because
even
the audience should expect that too, because it's been stated over and over again that the only person who didn't have a Bankai was Kenpachi, and he was special that way.
And
So
come to think of it, Urahara's Bankai is special too because he's the one who got on that super short amount of time like Ichigo did.
and keep in mind, keep in mind that he was the first to I think he was the first one to mention. No, I don't know if he was the first, but he did mention his Bankai many volumes ago. So
Well,
the
yeah, but
audience
the Quincy would not know that though.
yeah, but
So
what I'm saying
you
is
can't blame Askin about not knowing about that.
no, yes, you would. Well, he wouldn't know about that, but he should know that Urahara should have Bankai. So what I'm saying is we're wasting time by telling him, but we're wasting panel time. Kubo is wasting panel time by having him do this whole thing about how, oh my gosh, I wasn't told anything about you having a Bankai. It's like, well, he should.
Incidentally,
know?
Urahara saves panel time by not explaining the power for once. Urahara's like the only one smart enough to do that, or not do that.
Well, this is the first time he's actually been smart though.
True. Anyway,
So yeah, he does.
I like the translator option here. Where it's like he's like that's more of a second date type of question.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he kind of like unsutures the arm of Askin, which is actually kind of disturbing if you see it in like this is manga and anime, of course, so it wouldn't be as bad. But if it was like live action, that must be like really horrifying,
I can't help but feel like this actually, watching that in action actually feels more and more like a JoJo stand battle, and I'm not sure if that's just because of Askin's outfit.
Yeah. So Askin, gets away from the radius of Urahara's attack. And then Urahara says that his power is to basically restructure anything it touches. So now he basically becomes like Frankenstein. You saying?
One thing you miss also is that when Askin felt himself getting affected by the power, he immediately jumped back to trying to get out of any kind of range.
That's what I said.
Oh, I didn't catch you hear that then.
Right.
Which again reminds me of a JoJo battle because range of stands can also be a factor.
Yeah. So this is a character. Now his design is kind of reminding me of a character from Soul Eater called Stein.
I know of him. Yeah.
Yeah. He basically has sutures on his face too because he's a crazy mad scientist. So basically, they're both crazy mad scientists and they have sutures on their faces.
Yeah.
So basically, they're doing a reference to Dr. Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, whatever his name was. Yeah. Dr. Frankenstein. Well, I don't think Frankenstein himself didn't have the sutures, but his monster did. So they're making a reference to the story, obviously.
Yeah.
But so basically, and it actually, now I can say it. It brings back to my point about how the Bankai, the woman having like doll-like hands, was because it's kind of like represents the creepiness of this. You know, this is like watching a horror movie where you have like the mad scientist and having his dolls like all over his lab. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's experimenting on people, so he has like many types of like anatomical dolls or lab experiments that he's working on to make it kind of even more creepy. Yep. So it just fits this type of thing, and I'm not sure a lot of anime movies and OVAs have had similar, or even manga have had stories where you do have this type of situation where you have the mad scientist having sutures on his body and having dolls somewhere in his lab.
Actually, you know what that kind of reminds me of now that you bring it up that way? It's a reference you're not going to get because it's more of a book thing, but it's like in the Discworld series, they have an entire race of Igors. Like, you know how all the mad scientists and vampires now always have a servant named Igor?
Yeah. I actually watched the movie that made fun of that.
Yeah, and in Discworld's case, like, all the Igors are, like, all scarred and stuff like that. Mostly because their philosophy is that they will not do to someone else what they are not willing to first try on themselves.
Yeah.
So scars are... And they have the scars, they talk with a lisp, and... apparently they're quite the catch in their homeland of Uberwald.
Yeah, I haven't really no idea what you're talking about, but yeah, let's go.
But yeah, like I said, I know you're not going to get the reference, but at the same time, that is what it made me think of when you brought up mad scientists and sutures.
I wonder who else will get your reference.
I am now curious. But anyway.
Anyway, Uruhara attacks Askin, and it turns out that he can see now. And because, well, I mean, I think we should have noticed that a little while ago anyway. But Askin notices that his eyes are back, and it's because he basically restructured them and he basically healed them. Which, if you think about it, it's interesting because it's like his ability has always been defensive in nature. So I feel like maybe like his Bankai, well, not exactly the same as in the realm of not offensive power, but more like something that would help oneself, the one who uses it. You know. Right.
Like it's not a direct combat ability.
No, it's not. Which actually explains why he said it would be really not good for training Chad.
Yeah, and it once again makes me think of a JoJo battle because, like, again, that's just how a lot of stands can often work. But anyway.
Yeah. So, wait, you know, it's interesting how I just mentioned that it's not a very direct attack type of Bankai. Asuka's like, this is turning into a battle of brute force versus brute force.
Yeah, because like he sends him flying like Gear 4 Luffy versus Doflamingo.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Asuka's jumping the gun a little too quickly on this one.
Well, that is one thing I wondered about. A couple of pages ago, why is he suturing his hand? I don't remember getting injured before. But again,
I think this is I think the sutures come from his hand and they do something.
Okay, because I was wondering just now if maybe he was like restructuring his hand to like give him like more brute power.
Possibly, actually, he might be restructuring his hands to give him more force, which actually makes me take back my direct force type of thing. Although maybe it's an all type of it's well rounded, you know, all type of uses. So basically, Askin decides to use the gift ball deluxe.
Speaking of Doflamingo.
Yeah, because of the zoning and and so he basically says that he's going to dial the right amount of poison inside the atmosphere to basically kill Uruhara. And he says that I know that your Bankai is not something to trifle. Because it was like, this is pathetic, and even if you were just crawling around the ground, your Bankai is not something I want to trifle with. So basically, he's being really careful and all that. But here's the thing: even when characters, we always make fun of characters who are not careful and are stupid. Yeah. But oftentimes, in like with Byakuya, when you actually change the trope for once, it backfires on you.
Like by being careful, you end up screwing yourself.
Yeah, which I don't like that, to be honest with you. I mean, it feels like he's mocking the people criticizing his manga. You know what I'm saying? It's like, see, this is you being wrong. It's like, well, yeah, because you're working your work, or you're making. You're working your manga around what people are saying about you, or your work,
I keep coming back to JoJo now that we're kind of on these subjects, because again, that's actually how like JoJo versus Dio goes, like one of the big enemies. Of course, in that case, it's... Oh, go ahead. Well, in that case, though, the other guy is deliberately Jotaro. The JoJo of that battle is actually deliberately making him be careful. Like he's doing things to make him worry.
I don't read JoJo, but
Yeah.
the amount of reference you're making makes me think, is he like plagiarizing JoJo or something, or what's going on?
Probably not intentionally, but I can probably I can probably show you the scene I'm talking about later, and you can kind of see where I'm thinking of here. But
So, yeah, Urahara responds saying that he missed one thing, and then probably the one, this is the part that I like, and just from a subjective standpoint, subjectively, okay, I'm not gonna say anything objectively. Subjectively, this is what actually made me like the chapter. An arm comes out of his chest, holding his heart, and Urahara says, like, your gift ball deluxe was inescapable. You can't escape from it. However, what if someone would come in from the outside?
Yep.
And this is actually interesting, because this is actually a bit of a thing with a lot of magic type of stories where you do create an impenetrable shield, but from the other side, you didn't. Actually, no, not even just another story. Do you remember?
It's more like
Bleach?
it's more like the logic that a prison is meant to keep people in, but not necessarily keep people out.
Yeah, no. But you remember in Bleach when
Mm-hmm.
when with who is it? With Hitamori, Hitsugaya created a Keto spell to protect her, but it was only possible so it was not possible to enter from the outside, but it was possible to leave from the inside.
Was this during?
It was when she was brainwashed by Aizen and she attacked everyone and she collapsed because she was an idiot.
Okay.
And because he didn't actually think of the fact that she would actually leave on her own free will and attack everyone. Do you remember that? Because she was like going crazy.
I remember her being imprisoned. I forget this.
Yeah. That was a prison.
Okay.
The Keto he used was basically the opposite of the deluxe ball. So he apparently created a path to infiltrate it. I guess he found a weakness in the deluxe ball, and
Yeah.
how did he communicate with Grimjaw? Like that, I'm questioning.
Well, I think that's what the stitches might have been for.
But how?
Like there's like follow me kind of thing. Like he sees him, he follows him, he finds the guy he's after.
I thought you can't see. I don't know. You can't see inside, right? Because the deluxe ball from the outside looks like it's red.
Well, it does. It sounds like Urahara managed to get something going from the outside at some point, like through the Bankai. He restructured something from the because he says, and from outside the gift ball, I was able to create a path to infiltrate it.
Yeah. See, like I was saying, but he said he was inescapable, so he couldn't be outside at all, right?
I don't know. There's also the fact that it seems to be pretty far away and it's supposed to have a limited range. Like one other thing I saw mentioned on here was like, notice how it goes a pretty good distance, even though the Bankai is supposed to have a limited range. So I don't know.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Urahara is saying that he was able to get out of the ball and create some.
Not necessarily
or
himself.
From the outside.
But he could at least maybe he could still influence the outside in some way.
So he can influence. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if he's influencing the outside, I would like to see that, because at that point I'm just like, what? I see sutures on the ground, so I'm assuming that's the pathway. But it's just like I don't understand. Like, I'm just confused because at once. Okay, well let's finish the chapter.
Well,
okay.
There could also be something connected to what he says here next, which is like, thanks for the advice, Grimjaw.
Yeah, and then it turns out Grimjaw is in his Resurrection form, and he's basically Kalimaing Asuka's heart and basically squashing it.
As opposed to setting it on fire, which is the traditional Kalima method.
Yeah. Apparently Urahara said that the advice came from Grimjaw.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that he talked to Grimjaw before rescuing Yoruichi.
That's the assumption.
Right?
I think that's safe to make here.
Yes. So I'm assuming that that Grimjaw was like waiting in the wings just for the opportunity to attack Askin, which see, that's the problem. Like a lot of the stuff that Urahara's saying, I'm not seeing it. I want to see it.
Right.
I want to see him do the sutures. I get that. I get why he doesn't want to do it now. Do it in this chapter because we want to be surprised just as much as Askin was.
Right.
But
so we might see some explanation next chapter.
I mean, I'm just saying what he's saying doesn't necessarily fit in. Like it doesn't like fit in with any type of logic, a loophole or logic that I can see would make sense. Taking into account Askin's powers. That's why I'm like, okay, I still don't see how he would do that. I mean, can he even if he can't leave outside, can he still suture from the outside? And if is that what it's saying?
That's kind of the impression I'm getting. I just don't know if it's actually correct.
Yeah. So yeah.
You want to know with the whole restructuring thing, you want to know what my first thought was? It doesn't look like that's the case here after all, but my immediate thought when I heard that his power was restructuring things was that he would be able to constantly restructure, quote unquote, his base Ryatsu. Like more of that exactly the right power for exactly the right opponent stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of glad it was not the case here.
Yeah, I'm glad that was. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But the restructuring idea, it fits in with the mad scientist thing. And actually, if anything, it makes it even more mad scientisty than Mayuri. Because Mayuri would probably love that type of ability to restructure anything.
Yeah.
So at the same time, as much as I love the fact that Grimjaw just comes up, grabs the heart, and crushes it. I really do hope this ends. I mean, let's face it, I'm tired of asking. Like, I think we're all tired of asking. He is as I said, he's the least most important. He is the least important.
Story-wise, he's the least important of the Sustaffel, the Stern Ritter elite.
Yeah, well, he is, because everyone else has some type of investment in the game. Like, they're either part of the Soul King or they're really high up. Axon's just that guy. In fact, he was the only one who wasn't even part of it before this arc. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. I think you mentioned that before. You're right.
Yeah, so even by the story's own admission, he wasn't really that important compared to the other guys. He just kind of got in at the last minute. So I don't know. I'm just done with it. I'm almost done with the guy. And as I said, I've been upset at the previous chapter, and a lot of people have. I mean, a lot of the reviewers
we have Pet Electro Kitty Yoruichi. We have, and what is this now? The second or third case of exactly the right power for exactly the right person.
I know. You know what's funny? I don't know if I mentioned this last chapter, last review, but I showed my friend the chapter with Yoruichi being like Urahara's like pet, and she was like gasping, like, oh my gosh, like she couldn't believe it, because this has not been an enjoyable thing. It should have been. That's the thing. You have Yoruichi and you have Urahara. Like, these characters have been very popular with a lot of people, even with Bleach people, the guys who don't like Bleach. These guys have been popular. To have a fight like this, it just doesn't. It
hits the wrong way.
It hits the wrong way. It delivers everything incorrectly. I just don't like it. I think Kubo dropped the ball on this one.
Yes, I would agree with her, especially with Yoruichi. Urahara on his own with the Bankai. Personally, I found it a little underwhelming, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
And you're right. It makes sense. It fits with him. It fits with his character and his personality, etc.
To be honest, I think every you know what's an underwhelming Bankai? Kiraku. I mean, that's underwhelming as hell. All the Bankais have been underwhelming. Now I think about it. Right? I mean,
I guess. I mean, it kind of depends on the Bankai. Like, I think Byakuya's was one of the bigger ones when it was first used against Ichigo.
Yeah, but it was just basically like his Shikai on steroids. It was just more of a Shikai, which is like, okay.
I remember Tosen's was pretty cool.
Yeah, Tosen's awesome. And that fight with Kenpachi was amazing.
Yeah, that was a good fight. And he saw it in such a Kenpachi-ish way, too.
Yeah, I know. But it actually makes sense. And that was the great part about it. Okay, so far was really disappointing because I mean, how do you? I mean, like hers was basically 2-hit 1-kill, right? Instant kill, right?
Yeah. And she has to hit it. She has to hit it twice with the Shikai.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like 2-hit 1 instant kill, and hit the same spot twice. Although she can hit it from different angles, unless you're Aizen, in which case you can just flat out ignore it. And her Bankai was a giant cannon, which you think was be awesome at first, but then you're like, wait a second. That's not really an instant kill compared to with these types of guys. Her Shikai is better if you think about it,
Yeah.
And then
but her Bankai is just like a big thing.
It's a big thing that doesn't work. It never worked, except like the Quincy thing, and that was like barely. No, it didn't even work. He still survived that. Never mind. Her Bankai has never killed anyone. Her Shikai is a 2-hit instant kill, and her Bankai has never killed anyone. Even though it's hit people at point blank range like 3 times, like twice, and one, she used it twice on Baragon, and that didn't kill him. It was Hachi who killed him. Yep. It was ridiculous. It was disappointing. And then you had Kiraku, and then Kiraku was just so disappointing. I mean, what is it really?
I mean, it was kind of neat, like in the way it has like the whole big area of effect thing. It kind of follows a play or a theme. That would have been neat.
it was neat in a thematic sense. It was not neat in the efficient, effective sense.
Yes, but in that sense, I kind of get the impression that bankais aren't always efficient. Because you also have like ikakus, which like takes a long time to charge up.
Yeah, but the point of it is that bankais are supposed to be make you 5 to 10 times stronger than you are in your shikai, and that's always been like the rule. What it is doesn't really matter. It's supposed to make you stronger than your shikai. I'm not saying that the bankai in of itself is poor. I'm saying that it's poor compared to the shikai, and that should never be the case.
Yeah, true.
Because the bankai is supposed to be an upgraded shikai, and that's what they said over and over again in like all of these. Bankais make you 5 to 10 times stronger. So.
Right. Which makes Byakuya's kind of the better ones down there, because like you said, it is the shikai on steroids.
It is the most effective. It is one of the most effective, but it's also really boring because it's just more of a shikai from just like an audience standpoint. Because I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
And then when it goes into the sword thing with all the swords around it, it's cool in an atmospheric sense. But then it just becomes Byakuya using a sword again. It was like, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think the best bankai out there is probably Ichigo's. It's the most bankai. Oh yeah, Ichigo's is probably the most boring of all of them, but it's the most efficient.
Yeah, because it's mostly like power condensation. Like it puts.
Yeah, but then he overuses it because he's always in bankai form, so it kind of pisses me off. You know. So
of course,
anyway,
his is probably one. Of course, for the very reason you mentioned, his is probably one of the few you could use very often like that.
Yeah, but he was always in it, so he could never use Shikai because all the opponents kept getting stronger, but he was always in that. His Bankai became his default form, and that was my problem. So it no longer felt like a Bankai. It no longer felt like a trump card. It just felt like, a standard type of tool, and that didn't even work often. It then became his hollow powers. That's why they had to introduce his hollow powers to make him get this upgraded type of power, and then he's not even using that anymore. So now that's why they had Fullbringer. Well, they didn't have Fullbringer, but they had him combine with his Fullbringer powers with in the first beginning of the arc, and now they had him split his sword into two to keep amping up the power. And he was actually an opportunity to make Ichigo return to Shikai state. So now we still have another trump card. So his Bankai can actually become a trump card again. But my problem was that, I mean, he was in Bankai for the longest time. Like I think they even looked at it and it's like, yeah, he was in Bankai for longer than anyone, because for all of for half of Wakamundo and for all of the Fake Kakutan arc, he was in Bankai mode.
Oh yeah, you're right, because you got the long coat, you got the sword. You're right about that.
Yeah, he never became Shikai again. Like after his last time he was Shikai was against Grimjaw, and then after that he was in Bankai for literally the entire rest of the arc of the Aizen arcs. Yeah, that's how long he was in Bankai. He never became Shikai again.
I don't think I ever actually noticed that myself. Though, on the note of observations, there's one little completely unrelated thing that occurred to me because we were talking about Tosin earlier. If I remember right, wasn't the whole thing with his fight with Kenpachi, didn't Kenpachi get around it by realizing he could get his senses back by being in contact with Tosin's sword?
Yeah, but he realized that by letting Tosin attack him, and then he grabbed onto the hilt, which is how you can do it with Aizen too.
That's what was occurring to me right there. Like it was the same thing as with Aizen.
Yeah, so it wasn't unheard of before. That's why I didn't have a problem with the Aizen thing.
Well, no, I was wondering if it was deliberate foreshadowing.
Although it actually is another thing that happens to be the senses. He cuts off the senses while Aizen warps your senses. Yeah.
True, so maybe it's like a common thread there.
Maybe, but if there was a common thread, Kubo didn't really take advantage of that. It was just he's just a follower. I mean, it was an awesome fight. I mean, I love that fight. And it kind of sucks. Like, Touch was the one that I think Touch is probably the most. Well, Taste is actually, I think, the most underestimated. But Touch is underestimated, in the five senses. So it was interesting how Kenpachi basically took advantage of that. And only he would do that. Only he would basically use the ability to get attacked and then just grab onto Tosin. Like, I got you.
Yeah.
That's scary. I mean, that is scary. I mean, I actually felt that, like how scary it was.
If you want a manga that takes advantage of the sense of taste, look up a cooking or food-based manga. There you go.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's basically focusing on that,
Yeah.
So of course you're gonna get that, but anyway, so I think that's about it for Bleach.
Yeah.
Objectively. I was just saying, objectively, okay.
About par for the course.
Yeah. Subjectively, I liked it.
Yeah. Like I said, I found it a little underwhelming this time around, but yeah, I mean, but I can see why you would like it, because I can see just getting in there and just chest bursting the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome scene, but I will say though that it's about time, because Grimjaw was really been disappointing. I mean, he makes a small appearance and everyone's like, okay, that's Grimjaw, but Kubo wouldn't show him, and he comes back. Then he gets basically KO'd by asking like in the first second. I mean, that was just disappointing, right? So yeah, he comes in and does a Kali Ma on Askin, and as much as that's pretty awesome in an individual scene, if you think about it from a larger scale, like to take a step back and think about how useful Grimjaw's been, he hasn't really lived up to the hype, And now that he's in his Resurrection form, what good is he? I mean, unless he has a second Segunda Etapa like Ukiura had,
He could by now.
He could. But I'd like to know how Ukiura found it in the first place, because he was the only one. Like, not even Spark could do it. Like, that's the thing. Like, Ukiura is number 4, so why was it that the other 3 couldn't do it? Or I'd like to know what process he went through to get that power.
True. Yeah, but I think you're right. At this point, I don't really have much to add either as far as Bleach goes. So.
Neither does Kubo.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not for lack of trying. But in any case, this has been chapter 665 of Ichigo's Bizarre Adventure, the Princess Dissection. Go ahead and take us away.
Bye.